You are listening to a Core Confidence Life production. www.coreconfidencelife.com.
If you're an expert in your field and you're looking to spread your message by starting your own podcast, well, turn to Core Confidence Life. We are a talent development, promotion, and coaching service that will walk with you every step of the way and help you prepare, polish, and launch your podcast. We'll even be your producer as well. So if you're ready to speak into the mic, hey, speak to us first at Core Confidence Life. Go to coreconfidencelife.com and look under Speaking and Podcasts. Core Confidence Life. Contact us so we can help you master your podcast game and take the field. You are listening to the Core Confidence Life. I am your host, Dennis. Welcome to the program. And I gotta tell you, I've got 3 things on my mind today, but I'm only going to mention 2 of them. I'm thinking about freedom, and I'm thinking about stigma. Freedom and stigma. How do we bypass the stigma to get to more freedom? And what is freedom anyway? And we have a guest coming up on the program who's going to talk about his acting career and the lessons he's learned from that. And he also will talk about overcoming stigma to reach a larger degree of freedom. That's right. Stigma and freedom, 2 out of the 3 things on my mind today. Well, this moment. Well, as I'm recording. Now, just checking my email as we start the show because, you know, in this modern era, we can't get away from our electronics. And I just saw time is running out to get gifts for grads and dads. I just thought I would share that with you and leave it at that. I don't know. You are listening to the Core Confidence Life. I'm your host, Dennis R. Sumlin, broadcasting to you from New York City. You are listening to a men's development program where we concentrate on helping you gain core self-confidence and a healthy self-esteem. We advocate healthy, authentic relationships with yourself as well as others. And we are growing by leaps and bounds. Core Confidence Life is not just a podcast. It is a service. So if you want to improve your speaking skills, or if you want to launch a podcast of your own, or if you're an author or voice artist and you want to promote your material, contact us here. You know, that's right. And so coreconfidencelife.com is where you can find more info. Absolutely. And again, the concepts I was thinking of is freedom and stigma. And here on the Core Confidence Life program and our business in general, we advocate, encourage, and assist you in bypassing, transcending inner blocks and limitations so you can be the best, most high vibrating man possible, right? And there are so many stigmas that are dancing around in the world today that limit us as men from our true expression as humans, right? And our guest coming up on the program is a great example of that. And I was thinking about stigmas and what are some of the stupidest, dumbest stigmas that we as men have fallen victim to or is still a victim to. You know, some stigmas maybe apply to younger men, teenagers or whatever, and some apply to just men in general. But I just a couple of things I've heard over the years, stigma wise, and you might recognize these things, right? Men don't cry. That's the one. Men don't cry. Because if you cry and you're a man, you're a weak vagina. That's right. Man up. Wipe those tears. Stop being a vagina. Right? You know that's total bullshit. There's nothing wrong with crying. It's an emotion. It's a thing that humans do. Some cry more than others. I'm not suggesting you cry in front of millions, of course, but there's nothing wrong with crying as a man. So forget about that stigma. There's nothing wrong with it. It just limits our capacity to express our humanness. So yeah, not crying as a man is one of those dumb stigmas. Now here's what I heard when I was younger. I guess this is more for teenagers. I haven't heard adult men abide by this, although you never know. You're not supposed to be masturbating. I heard that when I was younger, because if you masturbate, right? If you're sitting in your room jerking off, that means you ain't getting no ass. And there's another one. Oh, if you're a man and you don't get no ass. Oh. So I want us as men to relieve ourselves of all of these stigmas. There's even stigmas around jobs that men do. Men can't do this job because it's feminine. It's womanly. And that's bullshit. Right? And we need to get to a level of freedom where we're allowed to be the men we can be and the humans we are made to be. When we think about the word freedom, many times what comes to our mind is being free from jail, prison, enslavement, being free to go out when we want to, being free to date who we want, that kind of thing. But freedom is also a state of mind. Freedom is also allowing yourself to be you without the strictures of the stigmas I mentioned, and many, 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 many more. Now I'm going to quote a song. I like this song here. It's from sort of a Broadway show type of thing. I'm just saying this spontaneously here, so I can't quote the exact artist here. But it's called Freedom. All right. Freedom ain't a state like Maine or Virginia. Freedom ain't across some county line. Freedom is a flame that burns within you. Freedom is a state of mind. And so here at the Core Confidence Life, we support and assist you to bypass and transcend the stigmas, blockades, misconceptions, toxic beliefs, limiting attitudes, and all other debris that restrain you from being your full, beautiful, human, manly self. All right. Now, coming up on the program, we're going to talk to an actor who went from being a high school basketball star to moving over into acting and theater and music. And he had to confront the idea that when he was coming up, being an actor, being a musician was considered feminine. You remember hearing that? You're part of the Glee Club. No, that's feminine. No, that's bullshit. Right? So we're going to bypass some of the formality here. Usually I do my little opening and then I play a couple seconds of the intro music and then I read some formal intro. But we're going to skip all that right now. I enjoyed talking to this young man. We had a great conversation. He is an actor. His info is going to be on the show notes if you're on coreconfidencelife.com. And he moved over from basketball into acting, having to deal with the stigma of a manly man, an athletic man, moving over to something as fairy-like and vagina-like, like acting. But we all know that's bullshit. So we're going to hear his life story. We're going to hear his transition, well, not transition, but his expansion from just sports into performing arts and how he worked through all that. And we're also going to talk about manhood and the lessons he's learned from life so far. So skipping all the formalities and pre-typed intros and 2 seconds of theme music, we're going right into talking to Patrick Harney, good young man from Michigan. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing pretty well, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. Now, it says here in the paper I'm not holding that you are an that you are an actor and a producer. And so I'd like to start off with all that. What is an actor? Tell me about your acting. What are you doing right now?
Yeah, well, so I've been acting for about 10 years now. I started in musical theater back when I was in like 8th grade. And yeah, in the last 4 years or so, I've been doing film. Next month, at the end of next month, and then going into August, I'll be doing a film. It's called The Denny Dooley Story. And so I'll be doing that film, and it's about this guy who he basically started off as a studio musician, and then kind of was blowing everybody out of the water, and ended up making his own band and started making music. It takes place in the late 60s. So that'll be fun to do. And then I've got a project that I'm acting and producing on. It's called Storage, where that will be right now. We're in the script development stage. So I'll be sitting down with our director and our other producers, and we'll be going through line by line on the script, making sure everything's good, making sure that, everything flows well. And also if we want to change anything, then we can do so at that time. But so I believe we'll be filming that, or we'll start, at least start pre-production toward the end of the year. But yeah, so I've got, and I shot a commercial for Z-Bart. I'm just always trying to work and trying to keep the flow going and keep the momentum going. So.
All right. Are you in anything that the general public might know, or maybe a commercial here and there, or a cameo somewhere?
Yeah. Well, the movie Detroit.
All right.
That came out. Yeah. So I'm not sure. It's no claim to fame. I'm in it for about that long. It's I play one of the soldiers in it, but yeah. So I was in that, and then I've got a film that's coming out at the end of the year. Actually, we had a private screening for it. It's called Scapegoat. We had a private screening for it back in September, and we actually sold out of the first show in under 18 hours. And then, so we actually oversold. So we had to add a second show, and we sold out of that one as well. So we had about 330-ish people come see that movie that night. And so I've got that going. But yeah, I've got a lot of projects that are being finished right now, and a lot of projects that are in post productions right now. So.
Oh, sounds good. So I guess the next logical question would be, what led you to become an actor? When did you know you wanted to be an actor, and things like that? What's that story like?
Yeah, so I actually, when I was younger, I was always kind of the performer of the family anyway, when I didn't really realize it. But when I was in 8th grade, a friend of mine had told me, she goes, "Hey, you should go out for the musical." And I said, no, I don't want to do the music. Like, come on, I don't want to do the musical. I'm a basketball player. I don't want to do the musical. And she said, "No, you should really try it. You should just go for it." And so I said, okay, whatever. So I went and auditioned, and just to give you an idea on how much or how little I really cared about the audition, was I sang "Santa Claus is Coming to Town." Like I wasn't taking it serious at all. And then I ended up doing better than I thought I was going to. And so I got offered a lead role in the show, and the rehearsals were going to be during basketball practice at that time. And so I told the director, I said, "Look, I can't do it. I've got basketball." And really I had no intention of doing it. And she said, no, we'll work around it. So I said, okay. And so I did it, and I got bit, and I absolutely loved it. And so from that point on, I did the musicals at my high school and everything every single year. And, went into college. I did a local theater production, and then I started getting into some student films, and I don't know, I really got into film because I loved that it was different every day, and I love that with this career, it's a different objective each day. It's not the same thing over and over every single day, clock in, clock out type deal. And also I like the idea of being able to create something out of nothing and create this character, get inside the head of somebody else for a little while, and and kind of play around a little bit, and and also it affords a lot of opportunities to potentially travel and see the world while you're working, and all of that, which is very intriguing to me. So.
Okay. Now, it's interesting that you said that you were a basketball player and you were kind of trying to figure out a way of not doing this event and
Yeah.
take it seriously. And Santa Claus is coming to town, surrounded by ho-ho-hos,
Yeah.
and things like that. So, what was underneath all that resistance? Why were you really resisting that with all of that might?
I think I was resisting it because, well, High School Musical had come out around that time also. So one, I knew people were going to start calling me Troy Bolton, and that ended up happening, but whatever. But honestly, I think it was because at that time, I saw, I was the sports guy, and in my head, sports and like the musical, Broadway, that type of stuff, that stuff didn't mix. I was playing football, basketball, I was running track, so I was pretty busy with that stuff. But to me, it just didn't seem manly, and it's kind of funny to say it now, because it's kind of the complete opposite. But at the time, it didn't seem manly to, get on stage in a costume and makeup and go, and sing in front of people. That didn't seem like a very strong thing to do. When in actuality, it's one of the strongest things you can do, because it allowed me to get a lot more comfortable in myself, and I was able to get more confident. And even my parents had said, there's some of the greatest performers. Look at, guys like Robert De Niro, or, some of the toughest actors in the world. They're all wearing costumes and makeup, and they're all playing make-believe, but they are really good at it, and they, and they take pride in it. And so for me, I think once I kind of stepped out there and I got the reaction that I did from everybody, I got teased a little bit, but at that point I didn't really give a shit, because everybody else was loving what I was doing. So to me, and I was loving what I was doing. So those few voices that were just kind of chirping, I just kind of swatted them away, and whatever. So
yeah. So you mentioned that you didn't think that acting and costuming was manly, because you were a man's man on the basketball field, and you had like a bunch of chicks around you, and you didn't want to get rid of that whole manly image. So, and I've talked about this before. Maybe you can shed a little bit of light on it. Just something to ponder. I remember way back when I was coming up, it was kind of considered less than manly to be part of the Glee Club, to sing and to dance and to act. For some reason, maybe a generation ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, it was considered to be less than manly. Now, I don't think that stigma's there anymore, from what I'm hearing. I'm not in school anymore. I'm not, 9 anymore, but I don't really hear that stigma around anymore. So why would you think, this is just an opinion-based thing, why do you think the stigma was there in the first place, and what got rid of it?
I think the stigma was there. I think the stigma was there because of, one, I think in part because of some of the culture around like Broadway and and around, the acting scene. It's very dramatic, and everybody, you always hear of like divas and like drama queens, and like, so, and I know, like, me as a guy, I could really care less about drama. I don't I don't really like to buy into it. And that's what you're going into. That's the world you're going into, is drama. And so I think maybe that's part of it. You know, but you got to think too. I mean, some of the, you know, I guess manliest men, you could say. I mean, look at like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. Those guys were singers, and well, they attempted to dance, but you know, they were I mean, they were entertainers, and those guys were the toughest guys around at that point, you know. And so I just think that now people have kind of understood that, you know, or at least some of the quote unquote tough guys, if they still want to be performers, I think they've kind of found their niche now, where, you know, you can play the tough guy, and or, you know, or you can play the action guy. And honestly, like, I think, I mean, it was cool because in high school, it was very, very hard to balance, but I did balance. You know, I was, you know, captain of the basketball team, and also was in choir and did the musicals, and I was in our men's chorale and stuff. And it was incredibly hard to balance. And I'm not saying any of this stuff to kind of toot my own horn, but I'm saying it because I was kind of the first one to do it at my school. And it was incredibly hard. And you know, I had a lot of challenges, you know, keeping both sides happy. But once I got through it, I'm happy to say that after I had graduated, or as I was, you know, in my senior year, there was a lot of guys on the freshman basketball team and even the JV basketball team that wanted to do choir and basketball at the same time. And I think by the time that I got done and graduated, I had counted that there was 9 more guys that were in choir and played basketball at the same time, which was unheard of, because at that point there was only myself and then one guy who he was kind of in it and kind of not. So in terms of the stigma, I think it's insecurities. For one, you know, I think people tend to think that, you know, all of that Broadway stuff is for, you know, or all of it is, you know, flamboyant and, you know, less than whatever, when in reality, like, you're putting on a show and you're entertaining people, and, you know, it doesn't matter who it is that's up there. If you're enjoying it and if you're having fun and you're good at it, why wouldn't you keep doing it, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I also was thinking about this as you were talking, the little contradiction in the culture that was going on. You know, it was kind of less than manly and a little corny and nerdy to be part of the Glee Club. But yet, women would love men who could sing and play instruments.
Man, I got more girls once I started singing and once I started acting than I ever did before. You know?
Yeah, not that women don't like basketball stars, but still, like, how is it less than manly when the chicks love it when you can play guitar and when you can sing to them? Like,
exactly.
It's a big old contradiction, but that's why it makes no sense, because it's stigma. It doesn't make any sense.
But also, I think too, like, when it comes to sports and stuff, you know, you're not at your most vulnerable when you're playing a sport. You know, you're not saying anything, you're not singing anything, you're just out there playing. And yeah, if you mess up, then you mess up, but you have many plays to get it right, you know, and kind of make up for it. Whereas when you get up on stage, you are 100% putting yourself out there, and you have one chance, you know. And if, say, you're doing a film, you know, you have many takes, but you have no idea how that film's going to end up. You know, you go in, you work, you do your part, and then you leave. And then at that point, it's left up to the director, the editors, the post-production crew. You know, it's in their hands now. So for me, any film that I do, I have to drop it once I'm done filming, because if I try to get too hands-on, then I'll start getting in my own head in terms of the post-production stuff. So you just have to leave it. And that's kind of terrifying, you know, because you may have given a hell of a performance, but the film turns out to be like it turns out to be garbage, and then you're the face of it, So so I think another part of that stigma is the fact that you have to put yourself out there in front of everybody.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a terrifying thought.
Yeah, like putting yourself, like they say back when I come from, on Front Street, putting myself on Front Street.
Exactly.
And there is an actual Front Street in Brooklyn, but nobody cares.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but nobody cares about that. Yeah. So moving in from the sports thing when you were younger into acting, talk to us about some of the things you had to go through as an actor. Like did it challenge your level of manly confidence and self-esteem? Like, did you have to get over anything by becoming an actor? What's going on?
Yeah. So I actually, when I was a sophomore in high school, freshman year, I had played on the JV basketball team. And when I was a sophomore, I was asked to try out for the varsity basketball team. Well, with the way that the schedules were lined up, the week of the show for the musical, which was in the fall, the week of the show was the same week as basketball tryouts. So that was kind of my hell week. And I would always go and tell all my teachers, hey, I promise I'll get you my homework next week, but I literally am not going to have any time to do it this week. And they were always pretty cool about it. But I would go to school. I'd get done with school. I'd go to basketball tryouts immediately after. I'd have to leave a half hour early to show up 2.5 hours late to dress rehearsal for the musical, be there until 10 o'clock at night, go home, shower, eat, and then do it all again the next day. My choir director and the musical director, he was always very, very accommodating to me, because he knew how important it was for me to try to make varsity, as a sophomore. I mean, not many people do that, or at least at my school, they didn't. And so he knew how important that was. However, my basketball coach, and he's a great guy, and he and I are on great terms now, and everything's cool now. But at the time, he and I were really, really butting heads because he didn't understand how important, the musical was to me. And for him, it was basketball or nothing. And, and it got to the point where after tryouts, there was this optional, and I put that in quotes, there was this optional basketball tournament that weekend, on Saturday, that all of us were invited to. However, I couldn't go because I had 2 shows that day. And in that show, I mean, it was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. There's literally one line of dialogue in the whole show. Everything else is music. So there's a lot of dancing, and it's very physically demanding. And so I told him, I said, unfortunately, I can't go. However, I wasn't the only one who couldn't go. However, I was the only one who wasn't placed on a team for 2 weeks after tryouts went. I was practicing with varsity, but I wasn't officially on the team. And it just kind of kept getting dragged on, and I was just kind of getting, dragged through the mud. And, finally I had to sit down with him, and it was all because of the musical. And, and my dad, he was always big on me trying to work through things myself, because that's the way you learn. So any issues that arise, he would guide me with it. But if I needed to have conversations with people, then it was me having those conversations. And, but it got bad enough that he had to go in and speak with the coach, and the coach had said, all of his issues with the choir director, and because of the success that he had, he was kind of jealous of it. And so my dad finally told him, he said, I don't care where you put him, but you need to put him on a team. Like, this isn't fair. And so he sat me down and he said, okay, well, I can either put you on, or you can either stay on JV, you can be the captain and play, a full game, 32 minutes or whatever, or you can play on varsity. I can maybe get you 6 minutes, but I can't even guarantee that. Your choice. And so I told him, I said, okay, I pick varsity. And I told him, I said, however, if I work hard enough, and I knew that I would, and I was already doing it in the practice, but I said, if I work hard enough and I earn a spot in the rotation, you have to give it to me. And he said, if you can earn a spot, then I'll give it to you. And by game 3 out of 20, I was already the first man to come off the bench. And so, but because of all of that struggle with the basketball side, it was really taking a toll on my acting side. And I was really struggling to stay focused and stay energized. So what was really cool was our costume designer. She would bring food for me, and she would have food ready for me because she knew that I needed to eat after basketball tryouts and as I'm getting ready for the dress rehearsal. So that was a big difference for me in terms of support. I got very little support on the sports side, pretty all growing up, really. But I got so much support with the acting community and the music community. Honestly, it was like night and day.
So why do you think that you had lack of support on the sports side? You're not just saying about these incidents, just in general. You just mentioned, just in general. Why do you think that would be?
Well, it's all competition. I got support to an extent, but there was so much politics involved in terms of, there was parents that were joining the boosters just to try to make sure that their kid was getting playing time. There was, all of this just chirping in the background, and which, by the way, the parents are the worst when it comes to sports growing up. Oh my gosh! At least nowadays, they are absolutely a nightmare. Because I've seen some parents go absolutely batshit crazy, and it blows my mind. It's like, you're not even out there playing; it's your kid. Why don't you settle down? But I think because when it comes to the music side and the acting side, with the show, if everybody's not on their game 100%, you only have one show that night. So everybody's relying on each other. And yes, you're relying on each other in a sport, but there's ways to make up for some of the weak, for some of the weak links. But yeah, I think too, there's a lot of testosterone in the sports, and guys that are trying to, come into their own and trying to, not make a name for themselves, but, show that they can keep up. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a lack of culture. I think with that basketball coach that I had, a little bit later on, I think he started to appreciate how much I really cared about acting, and I think he started to understand really how much I was invested in it, and so much so that, like, now anytime I post something about a film or whatever, he's always, he'll send me a message or something, or anytime I see him, he's always so excited to hear about what I'm doing, and and so, which is really cool to see that transformation alone.
All right. Well, that's great. You made a convert.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
That's right. Convert. Not a convict, but convert.
No.
Not a convict.
Yep. Nobody's going to jail here.
No one's going to jail. So now for the acting, here's something. How do you handle when you get rejected? Let's say you try out for something and they go, womp, womp, or you was hoping to get this thing and they chose somebody else or whatever. So I'm sure many actors have faced that, obviously. So Have you faced that? If so, probably yes. I don't know. But if so, how do you work through that? Does it give a real blow to your self-esteem? What's up with that? What's the dynamics?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've gotten so much rejection. And every actor has. you could submit for 100 projects and 99 of them say no, but all it takes is that one. And I think it used to really bother me, because I'm one of those guys, and I always have been. I'm always one of those guys that I want everybody to like me. And if I know somebody doesn't like me, or if I don't get chosen for something, whatever, I want to know why, because I want to work on it, so that way next time I can do better. But I used to get really obsessed with it, but now I've got a few mentors in my life when it comes to my career that have kind of told me, when you get a no, it's nothing personal. You're just not what they're looking for at that time. But it's not to say that at some point they might be doing another project and they might go, oh, hey, I remember this one guy that he didn't really work for this, but I think he would work for this. And they may call. But I think you have to take the personal portion out of it. There was a project that I was doing. Well, this Denny Dooley story, I got offered a role, and it was a pretty good sized role. And however, the director had called me, because it was originally supposed to be, an African-American man playing that role. But he said that with that specific role, he said it could be kind of open, to whomever. But then he called me the other day and he said, hey, so I was really thinking about it, and I was looking through the story and reading through everything. And he said that I think it needs to stay as an African-American man. And I said, okay, that's fine. And that's all part of the business. And so he easily could have just said, so unfortunately, maybe we can work together at some other point. But, because I was being professional about it, and, I'm not telling him to, go jump off a cliff or anything like that. He said, but I do still want to work with you. So it's a little bit smaller role, but is this role, how would you feel about maybe playing this role? And it's for this role, his guy's name is Chick, and he's like the lead singer and guitarist in like a grunge band. And it's a lot smaller role, but to me, like, it's still work, I'm working. And, so with rejection, I mean, it's anybody if you can get really, really upset about it and let it bring you down, but you have to let it, I mean, I get no's all the time, but all it takes is that one yes, and then I'm right back in it. I watched an interview with Bradley Cooper, and he had said that, he was talking with with a group of acting students and film students. And he had said, he goes, isn't it so true that, that we grasp so hard on that one project that we've got in our pocket, because that's what's keeping us afloat. And that's very, very true. So rejection is all, how much do you let it beat you down? And if you don't let it, then you'll be fine, and you can have some longevity. But if you let it beat you down and beat you down and beat you down, then eventually somebody will quit. So, and I'm not a quitter.
And you're not a quitter. Well, they always say you never fail unless you quit.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, very true. So do you have any practices or particular beliefs or anything that kind of keeps you going? Any routines, beliefs, or whatever that keeps your confidence up when you're feeling a little low or something like that?
Yeah. Well, for one, I'm big into music. I love music. I always have. And so anytime I'm feeling, blah or feeling down, I immediately, I'll start listening to some what I call feel good music. Matt Carney, John Bellion, just kind of whatever I'm feeling at the time. But yeah, I mean, there's that, and then also I've got a tattoo on my shoulder. It's Philippians written in Hebrew, and then 4:13 with the Celtic symbol for strength is the colon, because I'm very Irish, and I kind of look at that, and that's my reminder, to be strong, and that, for me personally, I mean, the verse is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so I just kind of remind myself with that. But also, I mean, I will say I have an incredibly supportive family, and I know how lucky I am to have that, because not everybody does. So I do lean on my family quite a bit whenever I'm in those moments, especially my mom and my dad. They've always been great teachers, and, have guided me through a lot in my life. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of the things that I try to do. And then also, if I'm really pissed off about something, then I'll go play some basketball or go work out, so I can sweat it out, kind of get some frustration, some physical activity. Because I do always need a balance of physical activity and mental, creativity, to keep me at an even keel.
Yeah. All right, that's cool. And you mentioned your family, and so what are you like outside of the acting studio and the basketball court? Do what's your life like? Do you have any kids? Do you have a partner? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I don't have any kids yet. I do want to have kids at some point, but
you better get working on that, pal.
But I am only 23, so I've got some time.
Oh, but, you got plenty of time.
Yeah, but I do have a very, very lovely lady who is with me every step of the way, and we will be together on the 16th, officially together for about 2 years. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty chill. I'm a big family guy, and I love hanging out with my friends. I'm not very high maintenance when it comes to that stuff. I'm easily amused. So, whether it's going to play basketball with a bunch of friends or just go grab a beer, go see a movie with Sam, and her and I, we're big movie buffs, and that's a big blessing in itself, is that she loves movies. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm pretty chill. I like to, I'm always working, and I'm always watching, I love to study, my craft, and I don't know why, but it works for me. I love just watching interviews with actors talking about, how they got into this role or what their process is, and kind of thinking in their mindset. So I'm always kind of doing that stuff. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty chill, other than the film stuff.
All right, well, that's good. And you've mentioned a couple times here about the stigma of manhood and so forth. So tell everybody what your idea of manhood is. What are the values of manhood? What makes a strong man? And what's up?
Oh, man. Well, nowadays, I think some of those lines are kind of blurred now, because, well, not blurred, but I think people are realizing that, to be strong, it's not just men aren't the only ones that can be strong. I mean, some of the strongest people in the world are women. So, but for me, and like, I know, the way that I would, want to raise my son, and the way that I was raised was, and I don't think this is specific to men, but I think when it comes to being a strong man, that means being reliable, being trustworthy. So your word is your bond. That's a big one. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Don't flake out. But then also, having a strong core belief in yourself, and also, I think being a man means that you're willing to take care of those around you, without any hesitation. I mean, like I said, I'm a big family guy, and so anytime anything, with my family comes up, everybody's always there to rush to help. Whether it be my sisters, if I need something, they're there. If it's my dad, and my sisters need something, they're there. But also, I think too, when you're faced with a problem, and I was taught this by my parents very early on. When you're faced with a problem, don't just sit down and let it beat the piss out of you and just start, crying and whining about it. Face it, put your head down and go through it, because it's the only way that you can ever learn in terms of learning how to deal with those experiences. Because throughout your whole life, you're going to be faced with problems and hurdles and conflicts. So if you don't know how to face those, then they're constantly just going to tear you down, and things could get a lot worse for you. But if you decide to put your head down, move forward, don't complain about it, work through your problem, to me, that's what being a man is being strong and facing problems head on, go through them. You may fall flat on your face, but at least you tried it, at least you tried to go through it, and and then just take care of your family.
All right. Absolutely. Very good. So speaking of all this, what roles do you like to play when you're acting? What's your favorite roles? Do you like to play a nice, strong man, or do you want to play a villain? Do you want to play, I don't know, a fairy godmother? I don't know.
Well, I like to play. I like to try to challenge myself as much as I can. I've gotten kind of, or as of now, I feel like I've gotten kind of typecast into a cop or soldier type role. But I do like to kind of push the boundaries a little bit when it comes to that. So, I've played like a philosophical stoner. I'm going to be playing like a grunge hippie type in this film coming up here. But I would love to play like an action hero. I think everybody would love to play that sort of hero at some point. But I also think a villain would be cool, because a villain, there's not really a moral compass to have to abide by. So, pretty much the gloves are off and you're ready to, it's a street fight at that point when you're a villain. There's no rules. So honestly, I just love to play any role that'll challenge me, and that I can't really get complacent in.
So what would you say to other actors who are trying to move into this business? What's some of the advice you would give? What are let's say I'm a young actor and I want to become, hey, Mr. Patrick, Manly Patrick, what should I remember when I want to become an actor? What's 3 things?
Well, for one, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You have to get that down. Number 2, you have to really look deep into yourself and think, do I want to be an actor or do I want to be a star? Because there's a very big difference. To be an actor, that means you're doing it for the love of the craft. You're doing it for the love of the work. Whereas to be a star, you just want to be famous. You just want to be a celebrity. And if that's the case, then find a different way to do it, because the whole acting and filmmaking process is incredibly tedious. You're spending 12-hour days on set. You might only film for 3 hours. And the rest of it's just kind of sitting around waiting while everything gets set up. So it's very tedious. And then 3, I would say, if it's truly what you want to do and it's what in your gut that you were meant, that you were meant to do it, then don't let anybody else discourage you. I've heard a lot of times in my life, what's your plan B? What's your backup plan? And what I want to tell them is to go to hell. But I know that people are saying it because they care about me. And the success rate for an actor is not very high at all. So, you know, but it sucks to hear that, you know, what's your plan B? Because then in your head, you're kind of thinking, oh, so you don't believe that I can do it. So yeah, that third thing is when you feel like nobody else believes in you, believe in yourself harder, because you'll be your own best friend.
That's excellent advice. I love that second one. You know, do you want to be an actor or a star?
Yeah.
And I think that transcends that into other things, you know, speaking and, you know, even being an athlete or something. Do you want to do this or do you want to be a star?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you want to play basketball or do you want to be a star? You know,
do you want to work or do you want to be famous?
Do you want to work or do you want to be famous? Do you want to inspire your audience and deliver a message, or you just want to be heard? You know,
Yeah.
Excellent. That's good stuff. So what's coming up for you in the future? Any future projects that you haven't said that you want to speak about?
Yeah. Well, there's a project that I auditioned for out in LA that hopefully I can land. And then there's another film that I auditioned for, that's looking to film in the fall. So we'll see about that. There is a project that we shot the proof of concept video for it. It's called DPD Echo 1, and you can find that on YouTube. But it's like a short film, I guess, to try to help sell and promote the show. But I'm hoping that show can get picked up and, you know, and get some money to be able to make it, because it's a great story, great script, great character that I'd be able to play. So hopefully that we can get that going. I also, my girlfriend and I actually we just started a YouTube channel. We were doing a lot of YouTube challenges, and anytime we travel anywhere, you know, we'll kind of do a vlog of it and everything. So you can find that on YouTube. It's called, our channel is Sam and Patrick. And then also I'm always posting about any of the projects that I'm doing, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. On Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at pharns194, so PHARNS, no E, 194. And also I'm on Facebook too. You can find my page on Facebook. So also I'm on IMDb, so you can always keep up on all of my projects that I'm doing, or that I'm working on, or that might be in pre-production or post, whatever. All of that's on IMDb as well. So,
wow. All right, excellent. All of that info for all of your projects, and that will be in the show notes as well. Absolutely. So, thank you for coming on the program. There's a lot of good material, a lot of good advice you've given us there, and interesting story.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the time, and it's great to talk with you, and it's cool being on your show.
All right, here's a few other stigmas that I've come across in my life. You know, men aren't into astrology. Oh my God. Oh, I must be a big old vagina, because I'm deep into astrology, right? Men aren't into love songs a lot. You know, men listen to non-love songs. Love songs are for women. You know, there you go. Well, I like all music, and it doesn't matter when I listen to it. I don't have to be in love or heartbroken to listen to love music. And I can go on and on about all the stigmas that there are in the world, but let's not submit to them. You're listening to Core Confidence Life, and enjoyed you being here. And if you want to be a guest on the program, coreconfidencelife.com/guest. If you want to share your personal or professional story of overcoming, or if you have an expertise in the area of men's development, holla at me. And remember, master your inner game and take the field.